what if the world is running out of everything?
Oh, wow.
I know.
Like
But
everyone.
not like in some crazy Mad Max future,
Right.
but like right now
Yeah,
in the world we live in.
exactly.
Today, we're going to deep dive into this kind of unsettling question
Okay.
with some research you've shared.
Oh.
It seems like we're facing this triple threat:
Uh-huh.
oil,
Oil, yeah.
water,
Of
and
course.
all those rare earth metals that we hear about.
Right, right.
And it's all about to impact every single thing.
Yeah.
So let's explore what it all means for, like, you, the listener,
Okay.
and what we can maybe actually do about it.
I like it. So
Right?
it's a real shift in like thinking.
Yeah,
You know, for a long time we just acted like planet Earth was this like endless buffet.
Yeah.
And now we're realizing it's more like a carefully balanced ecosystem.
Right.
And we might have overindulged a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Our sources, they start with this idea that for centuries,
Mhm.
we just viewed Earth as this limitless source of, like, resources.
Totally. Those pictures of like gushing oil wells,
Yeah.
rivers that just flow forever.
Uh-huh.
It was easy to believe we'd never run out.
Right.
But then they dropped this like reality check.
Okay.
Over half of the world's like easily accessible oil reserves
Uh-huh.
are already gone.
Gone.
We've drained the easy stuff.
Wow.
And now we're left with the dregs.
Yes. And reaching those dregs comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Think like drilling in fragile environments,
Yeah.
or resorting to those techniques like fracking,
Right.
which can have its own environmental consequences.
Of course.
And as these resources get harder to extract,
Yeah.
the price of everything that depends on them
Right.
starts to climb.
So no more cheap gas for our cars then.
Well, it's not just gas.
Okay.
We're talking about the potential for, like, rising costs across the board,
Uh-huh.
transportation,
Okay.
food,
Right.
even consumer goods.
Yeah.
Remember that oil price spike back in 2008?
Oh, yeah.
And all the riots it triggered in over 30 countries?
That was a taste of what like widespread scarcity could actually look like.
That's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
And it's not just oil, right?
No.
Water is another big concern.
You're sure.
Our sources highlight this crazy stat.
Okay.
2/3 of the global population
Mm-hmm.
could face water scarcity
Wow.
by 2025. That's like most of the world
Yeah.
struggling to find clean water.
I mean, we usually think of water scarcity
Yeah.
as something that happens in far-off desert regions,
Right.
not in major cities.
Exactly.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
major cities are feeling the pressure too.
Really?
Places like Cape Town, Los Angeles,
Wow.
even London.
No way.
They're already grappling with water stress.
Oh, God.
And it's only going to get worse as
Uh-huh.
climate change intensifies those droughts and disrupts like rainfall patterns.
And then there's this domino effect.
Right.
Drought leads to failed crops,
Yeah.
which leads to food shortages.
Exactly.
Food insecurity can then trigger those mass migrations
Uh-huh.
as people are forced to move
Yeah.
in search of food and water.
Right.
We're already seeing this happening in parts of Africa
Yeah.
and the Middle East.
Yeah.
And it could become a global phenomenon
Right.
if we don't address the root causes of water scarcity.
Oh, exactly.
Our sources, they bring this point home with a really stark example.
Okay.
The Colorado River.
Oh, yeah.
It's drying up
Oh, wow.
at an alarming rate.
Really?
And that river supports like 40 million Americans.
Gosh.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Agriculture industry,
Right.
drinking water,
Wow.
all reliant on a river
It's crazy.
that's shrinking by the day.
It's a powerful reminder that this isn't some like distant future problem.
Right.
It's happening right now.
Yeah.
It begs the question,
Yeah.
what are we doing to adapt
Yeah.
and find those solutions
Right.
before it's too late?
So we've got oil dwindling, water
Yeah.
disappearing. What about those rare earth metals?
Oh, yeah.
Those things are in pretty much every piece of tech we use these days.
Mhm.
What happens if we run out of those?
Well, rare earth metals are essential for everything.
Okay.
From like smartphones and computers
Uh-huh.
to electric cars
Okay.
and solar panels.
Interesting.
And while they aren't as widely discussed
Yeah.
as like oil or water,
Right.
their scarcity could have just as big of an impact on our lives.
That's an interesting point,
Yeah.
especially since we're hoping these green technologies
Mhm.
will help us move away from fossil fuels.
Right.
But they're reliant on these rare earth metals,
Yeah.
which are also finite.
It's a problem.
It's like we're swapping one resource problem for another.
It's a complex dilemma.
Right.
We need these technologies
Yeah.
to transition to a more sustainable future,
Of course.
but their production relies on resources
Right.
that are themselves becoming increasingly scarce and difficult to extract. Plus, the mining of these metals comes with its own set of environmental problems.
Oh, right.
Deforestation,
Wow.
habitat destruction,
Agreed.
pollution.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
The sources, they mentioned this example of a Tesla battery,
Okay.
which needs 63 kilograms of lithium.
Wow.
Multiply that by millions of electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And suddenly, we're talking about a massive amount of lithium needed.
Right.
And that's just one type of rare earth metal.
It raises a critical question.
Oh, yeah.
Even as we move towards like a greener future,
Mm-hmm.
are we simply creating new resource challenges down the line?
Yeah.
If we're not careful, our solutions could end up contributing to the very problems we're
Right.
trying to solve.
So what's the wow factor when it comes to oil specifically? I know our sources had some pretty shocking stats.
Well, we've already touched on the fact that we've
Yeah.
used up over half of those easily accessible oil reserves.
Right.
But the truly wow moment comes when we look at global production.
Okay.
It's expected to peak by 2030,
Wow.
less than a decade away.
Less than 10 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then start to decline.
So in less than 10 years,
Yeah.
oil production could start going down.
It's a possibility.
That's wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that even look like? Does that mean gas becomes like liquid gold?
It's certainly a possibility.
Wow.
Imagine a world where oil is so scarce
Yeah.
that it's rationed
Right.
or only available to like the wealthiest few.
Gosh.
Air travel could become a luxury.
Oh, wow.
And even everyday items that rely on oil,
Okay.
from plastics to certain medications,
Wow.
could become prohibitively expensive
Gosh.
or simply unavailable.
Okay, so let's play this out.
Okay.
What if oil was basically gone tomorrow?
Gone.
What does that world look like?
I don't know.
No more cheap flights?
Yeah,
No more plastic?
right.
What else?
Think about the impact on agriculture.
Oh, yeah.
We rely heavily on like oil-based fertilizers and transportation
Yeah.
to get food to our tables.
Of course.
Food prices could skyrocket,
Wow.
leading to widespread food insecurity.
Yeah.
And without plastics,
Yeah.
packaging,
Right, that's right.
manufacturing,
Yeah.
so many things we take for granted
Yeah.
would be disrupted.
It's like that old saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
right.
But this isn't just some abstract what-if scenario.
Yeah.
Our sources are saying
Yeah.
this is a real possibility
It is.
if we don't start making some serious changes.
It's not about being alarmist. It's about being realistic.
Right.
The choices we make now, both individually and collectively,
Yeah.
will determine what our future looks like.
Yeah.
Do we want a future of scarcity,
Quite.
conflict, and hardship?
Yeah.
Or do we want a future where we live in balance with the planet
Okay.
and its resources?
Okay, so we've got the problem laid out,
Yeah.
and it's a big one. But before we get completely bogged down
Yeah.
in doom and gloom,
Right.
let's try to find some like glimmers of hope.
Okay.
Are there things we can actually do
I think so.
to avoid this everything is running out scenario?
Absolutely. The future isn't predetermined.
Okay.
There's still time to change course.
Yeah.
But it requires us to rethink our relationship with resources
Right.
and embrace a more sustainable way of living.
Okay.
That's where the real deep dive begins.
I like it.
Yeah. Our sources actually offered a helpful framework for like thinking about this.
Okay.
They ask us to imagine the earth as our bank account.
Okay.
Are we spending recklessly or are we investing in its future?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what happens when you blow through your bank account.
Right.
You end up broke,
Yeah.
stressed,
Sure.
and scrambling to make ends meet.
Exactly.
And just like with our personal finances,
Right.
we need to make smart choices
Yeah.
about how we use our planet's resources.
Right.
We need to start thinking about the long-term consequences of our actions,
Yes.
not just the immediate gratification.
for sure.
So where do we even begin?
Well,
It feels like such a massive problem.
our sources actually emphasize that individual actions can make a difference,
Okay.
especially when multiplied across millions of people.
Yeah.
And they focus on 3 key areas where we can have the biggest impact.
Right.
Reducing our energy use,
Okay.
cutting down on water waste,
Right.
and supporting the recycling of rare earth metals.
Okay, let's break those down one by one,
Okay.
starting with energy.
Okay.
What are some practical steps
Sure.
listeners can take to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels?
Driving less is a great starting point.
Okay.
Could you walk or bike to work a couple times a week?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe explore some public transportation options?
Right.
Every mile you don't drive
Yeah.
is a step in the right direction.
And I guess if you do need a car, choosing a fuel-efficient model or even an electric vehicle could make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't forget about energy use at home.
Right.
Simple things like switching to LED light bulbs,
Uh-huh.
unplugging devices when you're not using them,
Okay.
washing clothes in cold water
Right.
can add up to significant energy savings.
Those are all things we can do right now.
Right.
What about reducing water waste?
Okay.
I know we talked about the Colorado River drying up,
Uh-huh.
but what can we do about that at home?
Fixing leaks is a must.
Okay.
Even a small drip
Yeah.
can waste gallons of water over time.
Oh, wow.
And when you're brushing your teeth
Mm-hmm.
or washing dishes,
Right.
turn off the tap
Okay.
while you're not actively using the water.
Right.
Those are habits we can all adopt easily.
I'm definitely guilty of letting the water run while I brush my teeth.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a conscious effort to change that.
Good.
What about bigger changes?
Sure.
Anything we can do around the house to conserve more water?
Installing water-saving fixtures,
Okay.
like low-flow shower heads and toilets,
Right.
can significantly reduce your water usage.
Okay.
And believe it or not, your diet can play a role too.
Right. My diet affects water usage.
Yeah.
I thought that was more about carbon footprint.
Well, both are interconnected.
Okay.
Meat production,
Yep.
particularly beef,
Right?
is incredibly water-intensive.
Okay.
It takes thousands of gallons of water
Oh, gosh.
to produce just 1 pound of beef.
Wow. I had no idea it was that much.
Yeah.
So cutting back on meat,
Mm-hmm.
even a little bit,
Yeah.
could actually have a big impact
It could.
on water conservation.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all about making those connections
Yeah.
and realizing that our everyday choices have far-reaching consequences.
Okay, so we've covered energy and water.
Right.
What about those rare earth metals?
Okay.
What can we do to ensure those precious resources aren't wasted?
The most important thing is to recycle your electronics properly.
Okay.
Don't just throw them in the trash.
Right.
They contain valuable rare earth metals
Yeah.
that can be recovered and reused.
Mm-hmm.
Look for e-waste recycling programs in
Yeah.
your community.
Okay.
Or check with your local electronics retailer
Uh-huh.
to see if they offer trade-in programs.
Right. I remember reading in one of the articles that many of these metals are just sitting in landfills
Yeah.
when they could be extracted and reused.
It's a missed opportunity.
It's like throwing away gold.
For sure.
Yeah.
And beyond recycling, we can also support companies that are actively working to incorporate recycled materials into their products.
Mm-hmm.
More and more companies,
Yeah.
particularly in the tech sector,
Okay.
are making efforts to use recycled rare earth metals.
So voting with our wallets, essentially.
Precisely.
Choosing products from companies that are committed to sustainability.
And another powerful tool is your voice.
Okay.
Contact your elected officials
Right.
and let them know that you care about resource conservation. Urge them to support policies that promote renewable energy,
Okay.
water conservation, and responsible mining practices.
Right. Because individual actions are great,
Yeah,
but we also need systemic change.
for sure.
We need policies that incentivize sustainability
Uh-huh.
and hold companies accountable for their environmental impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Individual actions can create a ripple effect,
Right.
but real lasting change requires collective action.
Okay.
And that often means engaging with the political process.
So we've talked about what we can do at home
Right.
and in our communities,
Mhm.
but are there any larger trends or innovations
Yeah,
that give you hope for the future?
I think so.
Are there any glimmers of light
I'd say so.
in this potentially bleak resource landscape?
There are actually quite a few.
Okay.
One really promising area is the development of a circular economy.
Okay. Break that down for me.
Sure.
What is a circular economy?
Yeah.
And how does it relate to resource depletion?
Essentially, a circular economy is designed to eliminate waste
Okay.
and keep resources in use for as long as possible.
So instead of things ending up in a landfill,
Yeah,
they're constantly being repurposed and given new life.
exactly.
Okay.
Imagine a world where products are designed
Hmm.
for disassembly and reuse,
Uh-huh.
where waste is seen as a resource,
Right.
and where manufacturers are responsible
Yeah.
for the entire life cycle of their products.
Okay.
That's the vision of a circular economy.
That sounds pretty amazing,
It is.
but is it actually achievable?
There are definitely challenges,
Yeah.
but there are also many inspiring examples
Okay.
of companies and communities already embracing circular economy principles.
Oh, wow.
For instance, some companies are leasing products
Uh,
rather than selling them,
Interesting.
allowing them to reclaim and reuse the materials
Right.
when the product reaches the end of its life.
That's clever.
Yeah.
And I've heard about companies experimenting with biodegradable packaging made from things like mushrooms or
Oh.
seaweed.
Right.
So it breaks down naturally
Uh-huh.
instead of ending up in the ocean.
And there are initiatives focused on industrial symbiosis,
Okay.
where the waste from one industry
Yeah.
becomes the raw material for another.
Interesting.
It's about finding creative ways to close the loop
Yep.
and minimize our reliance on virgin resources.
It feels like we're at a turning point.
It is.
We're finally starting to wake up
Yeah,
to the realities of resource depletion.
it's true.
But we're also beginning to see
Yeah.
some really innovative solutions emerge.
It's a time of both great challenge
Right.
and great opportunity. The
Mm.
choices we make now
Uh-huh.
will determine what kind of future we create for ourselves and
Yeah.
for generations to come.
It feels like we've been on this roller coaster ride.
Yeah,
From those shocking stats about resource depletion
right.
to these hopeful ideas about a circular economy
Yeah.
and people actually changing their habits.
It's a complex issue for sure.
It is.
And it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
I agree.
But what I find encouraging
Yeah.
is that there's a growing awareness of these challenges.
Uh-huh.
More and more people are starting to understand
Okay.
that our current way of life isn't sustainable
Right.
and that we need to find new ways of doing things.
The sources we've been discussing actually highlight
Yeah.
this shift in thinking, this move from a mindset of abundance
Right.
to a mindset of resourcefulness.
Exactly. And that's where the real opportunity lies.
Okay.
When we start to see those constraints as a catalyst for innovation,
Uh-huh.
that's when we see the most creative solutions emerge.
Right.
Necessity, as they say, is the mother of invention.
So what does this more resourceful future look like? I mean, beyond the obvious stuff like recycling and using less energy,
Sure.
are there bigger, more fundamental changes we need to make?
Well, one crucial aspect is rethinking our relationship with consumption. Our current economic model is based on endless growth,
Yeah.
on constantly producing and consuming more.
Right.
But that's simply not sustainable on a planet with finite resources.
So are we talking about degrowth then?
Well,
Like actively shrinking the economy?
not necessarily degrowth is one approach,
Okay.
but there are other models that focus on decoupling economic growth from resource use.
Okay.
The idea is to create an economy that thrives on well-being
Right.
and quality of life
Yeah.
rather than just on consuming more stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, it's about quality of life, right?
Exactly.
Having access to the things we need to live healthy, fulfilling lives.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily mean having more and more possessions.
It's about shifting our values,
Okay.
recognizing that true wealth lies in experiences, relationships,
Right.
and contributing to something larger than ourselves.
I remember one of the sources had this powerful line. It said, if the earth was your bank account, would you keep spending like this?
Wow.
It really made me stop and think.
It's a stark reminder that we need to be more mindful of how we're using the planet's resources. We're not just consumers, we're stewards of this earth.
Okay.
And we have a responsibility to care for it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
it feels like there are two big takeaways.
Okay.
First, the challenges of resource depletion are real, and they're coming at us fast.
Yeah.
But second, there's hope.
There is.
We have the power to change course,
They do.
to create a future where we live in balance
Right.
with the planet and its resources.
And those changes start with each of us.
Okay.
What choices can you make in your own life to reduce your impact, to conserve resources,
Okay.
and to support a more sustainable way of living?
It can feel daunting,
I know.
but as we've discussed, even small actions can make a difference. Maybe you start bringing your own reusable bags to the store,
Right.
or you choose to walk instead of drive whenever possible.
Or perhaps you decide to reduce your meat consumption,
Yeah.
support local farmers,
Okay.
or invest in energy-efficient appliances. Every action, no matter how small,
Right.
is a step in the right direction.
So let's end this deep dive with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
What one thing will you change today to ensure a less broke future?
Good question.
Share your commitment with us on social media.
Right.
And let's inspire each other to create a world where resources are valued, conserved, and shared equitably.
Remember, the future is not predetermined.
Right.
We have the power to shape it.
We do.
And the choices we make today will determine what kind of world we leave for future generations.
That's true.
Let's choose wisely.